already accessible to you. Now, we've talked about RPR in the past. This is a great avenue to be able to use some of the additional tools. And in this circumstance, we're going to be talking about how to generate and how to pay attention to which leads you should be prospecting. So there is farming and there is fishing. In this circumstance, we're going to go after what we considered fishing. So we're going to put on a specific lure going after a specific target. In this circumstance, we're going to identify listings that we feel would be priority whenever we're going through this process of trying to find new listing clients. So today, stay with me so we can go through this pretty quick. Remember, as always, if you have any questions or concerns, you can always reach out to me directly. Right below, we should have a real quick stream that has my name, my number, and my direct contact email. Feel free to connect with me at your leisure so we can kind of break this down in more depth. But let's drive right into it. So today we're going to be using RPR. So RPR is an offered product that you guys already receive if you are a realtor because you are paying for it through your dues. You should be using these types of tools because they are accessible to you. Now, there are other variants of this. You can use some tax variants, and you can use some just simple Remine, or other programs can do a lot of the tools. But because this comes with you automatically, if you don't want to go out and spend some additional money, this is a great avenue to get it at no additional cost. So once again, we're bringing ourselves right up into El Paso, Texas here, because that's what we're going to use as our home state for access. So our home page looks like this, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click up here on my research tab, and I'm going to do a property search. So when I do that, I'm just going to type in El Paso, Texas here, or search current location. Now, what I want to do here is I want to take this a little bit further out because what I'm doing today is I'm going to be using a access that is going to basically bring me as much results as possible for layering, okay? I want to kind of identify what target areas I want to actually achieve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this map out to basically the entire city. And once I do that, I have my entire city here. I want to identify some things about this that are going to make my prospecting and my fishing just a little more accessible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little detail down here at the bottom, what's called data layers. So once this rolls up, what I'm looking for is a couple things. So remember, guys, these are all categories that are going to be able to show you which leads you should be going after. So one of the ones that I like to use the most is your list to sales price. So this is a great avenue to be able to show you what inventory is moving really quick and which is really hot, has a highest demand, if you will. So if I drop in this list versus sales price and I apply this to the entire market, you'll notice that the entire market doesn't actually shine really well here. It actually is pretty much mostly white, and that's because white is the avenue where the list to sales price is about even. But what I'm looking for is this thing where we are seeing lots of additional value flux into the market. Yeah, I know. So basically, I'm going to look for this dark blue color. And you'll notice there's some dark blue mixed in here in a couple different areas. So I'm just going to zoom in here because I want to start to see where we're actually getting a lot of value. So this is kind of a nice area that can kind of identify. So northeast is seeing some good value. You're seeing some real high heavy value increase up in this area. You're seeing some high increase in value up in the middle of maybe Mesquite Hills. And then you're seeing some high increase in value basically in Apollo Heights and in North Hills as well. So these are great avenues to be able to identify what target markets you might want to be doing, or maybe narrowing down which areas of certain subdivisions that you might want to be doing as well. So let's just zoom in here real quick and kind of see why this area of Pleasant Hills is seeing some real high value increases, okay? And my target went off for some reason. So I'm going to take that off and put it back on. So it actually will only show me my list to sales price at a certain point. It doesn't really like a zoom in, zoom out feature, but this will give me kind of an idea of where I need to be and what areas I want to be looking at. So basically I want to be looking at right in this area here. in Pleasant Hills, okay? So once I zoom into that, it's going to continue to tell me that I have too much contact. Yes, I know. All right, so basically, let's look at this area. So basically, as this starts to load, and I give it a second to load, this is going to show me where I'm actually seeing a lot of additional value being influxed into the market. So everything here is a little bit on the positive end of the blue side of the spectrum. So that's obviously a plus, but you'll notice I get a little more value up in this area. So maybe I want to zoom in and start targeting these areas correctly, okay? So let's just zoom in one more point here. And let's get really narrow on this. Let that work its magic. Yes, I understand you're zooming to me. So basically, here's our value, and we are seeing that this is nice, good value. So most of the point is that a lot of this inventory is selling for a premium. And remember, that premium right now is sitting somewhere in the range, because most of it's like that light blue color, somewhere in the range of 5 to 10 to 15% additional value in what we're looking at. Now, why is this beneficial? Well, because if it was on the red side of the spectrum, which if you actually zoom out to the entire city of El Paso, there is actually some red. So if we're in a red area, what we want to be careful of is realizing that this area down here, and if we're paying attention to that area, we want to be really careful, because that area is actually seeing reductions in value, meaning they're listing where they want to, but then they're coming down in order to sell. There's a couple areas like that around town. In fact, the west side is actually pretty plagued with this pretty heavy. You'll notice that some of these areas are seeing as much reduction in value as what looks like almost 20 or 30%. So they're listing up here, but they're coming down when they're actually closing. Now, the question is, what would you want to prospect more? Would you want to prospect the areas that are receiving additional value, that have high demand, or would you want to receive and start prospecting the areas that maybe don't? There's ways to work both sides of the coin, but my point is you want to walk into that knowledgeable, so you know what's actually going on when you're having that discussion. So that's one layer that I really like, that list versus sales price. Now, the other one that I really actually like to work, and this is when I'm doing prospecting for distressed properties. So concentration of distressed is a very interesting database, okay? So once again, I have this information, okay? And the low housing density of low, let's see, make sure I don't want housing density. I actually want my concentration of distressed. All right, there we go. So these are high distressed areas, okay? Now you'll notice there's actually a pretty heavy prevalence of some highly distressed areas. I think this is something that we maybe take for granted per se, but you'll notice there are some really high distressed areas in town. The east side showing pretty prevalent. If you get out into that upper part of northern, northeast, and then that farther edge of Tierras, these are have high densities of distressed properties. Now, why would I bring this up to you? Why am I showing this to you? Am I trying to show you that there's an issue with maybe the market starting to take a dump? No, that's not what this is for. This is taking distress. So this is public record showing that these people may be behind on payments. But what this tells you is these are great neighborhoods to basically say, hey guys, you have tons of value now, and maybe it might be good to sell the property before you fall into a distressed nature, or into a foreclosure nature, or into any of those other avenues that may require things like short sales and so on and so forth. So this is just a great resource to show you kind of where you want to be marketing. And keep in mind, when you zoom in, it breaks it down to specific streets as well to see if you can find distress. Now you can use this program as well to pull out mailing labels that can mail out mailers to people or stuff like that. That's not what I'm using it for today. Today I'm just kind of showing you how you want to target maybe the specific areas that might fit you well when you're actually working on process. Now, the one other one that I'm going to play with today is going to be that pending sale concentration. Now, pending sale concentration is interesting because pending sale concentration basically shows us stuff that is going in and selling pretty quick. And what this also shows is that if stuff is sitting on market for a little bit longer of time. For instance, if you start to see some of these neighborhoods stay on this list for a while, that's something that you kind of want to pay attention to. But you'll also notice that these things sell very quickly. So great avenue to find out just a heat map of information of what might be really beneficial for when you're actually going out there and starting to prospect. Guys, this isn't going to be the end all be all. This isn't your only tool and resource to identify when you're actually marketing properties. What this simply is you having the ability to basically find value where maybe everybody else is not looking for value. This is that question when you have a listing that gets 6 offers and you have the listing that gets 35 offers. Why is that? What's driving that? And could I have found that out before it actually happened? Well, this is that data that allows you to find that information in the advance so you walk into it with the appropriate nature. For instance, open houses. This is a great avenue for open houses to be able to identify if they're going to have good success or not so good success based on what you might see as demand in that particular market. Guys, I hope this is a little bit resourceful. Once again, if you have questions on how I particularly use this data or how I put it into action specifically, please reach out, 915-256-6989, or you can contact me with the information below. Guys, I appreciate your time and I appreciate the fact that you are joining us today. But what I do want you to think about is always push yourself further. Always try and find that next thing that's going to make you more successful. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. See you later.